The Fallout series has been around for 27 years, and in that time there have been multiple development studios to try their hand at making a Fallout game. It started with the classic Fallout games made by Interplay.
I am not a sir! I work for a living, you moron!
Then there were the explosively popular Bethesda Fallout games.
Oh, yeah? We'll see about that. I'm sure anyone will be sorry, you little...
And then, of course, the universally praised Fallout New Vegas made by Obsidian.
What in the goddamn?
But at this point, it's been 9 years since the last real Fallout game. That one doesn't count. And now, finally, a new development team has stepped in to fill the void. After so long without an official Fallout game, a group of fans came together and built a mod of Fallout 4 that is practically its own game, with a full 25-hour main story, voice-acted NPCs, an entire original map bigger than Fallout 4 and its DLCs combined, also somehow the densest video game map I've ever played, bugs, fleshed out factions, bugs, choices that impact your standing with factions as well as the game's ending, new races of people, and so much more to explore. Not only would I consider this on par with full-fledged Fallout games, but it might be some of the most fun I've ever had playing a Fallout game. Fallout London begins miles underground in a hidden laboratory where you are floating in a big vat being looked at by scientists.
Perfectly usual.
Of course, there's some shadowy guy staring down at you from a window menacingly to establish that he's the scary one pulling the strings. And with no more context than this, you get to create your character. I really wanted to fit in here in London, so I made my guy look as British as possible. The traits in Fallout London are pretty cool, as most of them lend to creating particular builds, and some of them are just downright insane. See, I went with the Chemhead trait because I thought that would really lend itself to my average London resident build. And I also took another one, which is probably the most standout trait to me here. It's called the Sleepwalker trait. It is exactly what it sounds like. When you go to sleep somewhere in Fallout London, you have a random chance of sleepwalking and waking up in another part of the map. After you're done creating your character, the scientists observing you go to put you to sleep, but they're interrupted by an attack on the lab that you're in.
Yay!
This creates an opportunity for you to escape this pod and get your slimy dogs on solid ground. Now, the laboratory has an immaculate atmosphere right off the bat and is the first of many examples of how these modders paid such close attention to detail. Remember, this is a mod of Fallout 4, but you can see in exploring this laboratory that they replaced all the items from the base game and made them into more British things. Tons of different stuff all around the environment. The computers have been changed around to have these cool keyboards that like whip out, and that's pretty cool. And this is about as British as it gets. The first enemy that you fight in Fallout London is a shrew, but not just any shrew. As a rad shrew. Native to Britain is the funky looking beast known as the shrew, and these are their radiation slurping brethren. Even something as pivotal to Fallout as the Pip-Boy, you know that funky little computer like gauntlet thing that all the Vault Dwellers have on their arm, has been changed here to be the Attaboy. Seems like they modeled it after a cassette player or something, I'm not exactly sure, but it looks really cool. We use it to get out of the lab and make it into what looks like a train station where that big scary guy pulling the strings is up on a screen monologuing for a couple of minutes. It's here he reveals himself to be Mr. Smythe. And honestly, I can't help but see the Andrew Ryan from BioShock influences here, as we're sitting in a dark room where a TV glows down on us and he monologues ominously, which is like BioShock 101. And that's a good thing in my opinion, right? BioShock is an amazing game. If you were gonna mash up Fallout and BioShock, you would get all of my money instantly. I really like this intro for Fallout London because it's effective at building intrigue without like fully locking me into a background. This is in direct contrast to what I didn't like about Fallout 4. See, in that game you start off with a wife and child, and in the intro of the game, the child gets abducted, and your entire journey is brought about by your search for this child. Fallout, in my opinion, thrives when you can just forget about the main objective and go do some random stuff, but when the main objective is finding your kidnapped child, it doesn't really make sense for me to go do some silly side quest somewhere. But here there are no children, there is no wife, there's just a vat of goo, some broken glass, and a weird guy talking at you from a TV. After Smythe is done talking, you can make your way outside to look at a couple of shops, and then you can find a ticket on the ground and use that to get on the train that'll take you deeper into London. As it starts traveling along the tracks, more of the city becomes visible, and this is where my jaw hit the floor. Seeing these claustrophobic streets of London, everything so tightly packed together, in stark contrast to the open fields I've become so used to in open world games, it just blew my mind. This is the map that was said to be as big as Fallout 4 and its DLCs combined. How in the world could they make it this dense? Oh, that's how. Fallout London is an incredible experience, but it runs like a lawnmower with Dr. Pepper in the gas tank. It is something I can get past, but not everyone can. Performance issues aside, this is where the train does actually crash, and it's where the game does something interesting. At this point, you can just run past any of the objectives and go wild on the open world. The game does not stand in your way of doing that, but instead, they provide an incentive through giving you long-lasting injuries that can only be cured by following that objective. I really enjoy the design philosophy of, hey, you don't have to do this, but you really fucking should. And if you don't, I am going to make your life a living hell. Like, you can go do whatever you want, but you're gonna have a really bad time. And that's your fault for like not fixing the problem. Though I don't need too much incentive to follow the main quest, because immediately you walk up on this group of the most British human beings that have ever graced the planet.
Well, well, well. If it isn't the lab rat, you made it out. You're in the right state, ain't you? Never had a crash round here before.
They are straight out of an episode of Peaky Blinders. I would follow them anywhere. The dialogue system here is inspired by the one from Fallout New Vegas, where you get a couple of different options. There's no voiced protagonist, thank God, and some of them require skill checks to progress. I think it's good, but honestly, anything's better than the dialogue in Fallout 4.
I'd really like to come in.
No, you really don't. Now get out of here.
Come on, let me in.
You're not gonna give up, are you? Door's unlocked.
These people that we're following are members of the Vagabonds, one of the many factions in Fallout London. The Vagabonds, along with all of the other factions, have entire faction quest lines that you can do. But for right now, this is the moment in the game where we are fully let loose on the city of London. And while we explore London, I'm gonna tell you about something really cool. So I'm a big hater of spam calls and spam texts, spam emails, or just spam in general. I don't think it tastes very good. And that's why I love the sponsor of this video, Incogni. There are tons of companies out there grabbing and trading your personal data, and all it takes is sharing your info once. Like, I've put in my personal phone number when buying stuff online before, not even thinking about it, and then my number gets traded around, and now it's to the point where I don't even pick up my phone because it's 90% spam calls. Technically, you have the right to request your data be removed from these databases, but it would take you forever to try and do on your own. And that's where Incogni does the heavy lifting. See, once I gave Incogni permission, they immediately started the removal process. I wasn't even expecting a lot of my data to be out there, but then I used Incogni, and there were 123 databases with my information. That's insane. But all it took was a couple of clicks on Incogni, and now I can answer my phone again. If you want to take back your data, go to incogni.com/bizlychannel and use my code bizlychannel for an exclusive 60% off an annual subscription. One more time for the people in the back, that's incogni.com/bizlychannel and use code bizlychannel for an exclusive 60% off an annual subscription. Thank you, Incogni, for sponsoring this video. Now, there's one thing you'll notice immediately when you begin exploring London, and it's that this game is hard as fuck.
No, you weird floor penis, go away. Stop! Stop chasing me, please.
Yep, bit my arm off. God damn it. So many. Move! 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 There are so many instances in this game where I have been killed in one hit. It is borderline, like, Souls-like level difficult. At least for me, I don't know. Maybe I'm just bad at games. I have never been so terrified of a ladybug in my life. All it took was one wrong turn down an alley, and now I'm traumatized for life. And the difficulty spike while shooting my adrenaline up beyond safe levels is actually a welcome challenge that keeps the game interesting. I like that I actually have to think about an encounter and how I'm gonna handle it, because I know they're just gonna like one-tap me and my head's gonna pop like a grate. Most of the time that just means I gotta think about what combination of cigarettes, chems, and alcohol I'm going to pump into my body so that I may run around and destroy everything in my path. I found that some enemies require a little bit of distance, while others, it's better off you just close the gap and turn them to dust. Yeah, there's actually a ton of weapons that were built just for this game, and they're all awesome. There's different rifles and pistols, but the main event here are the melee weapons. It's pretty apt for Britain, right? Because they're more known for like stabby stabby and not shooty shooty. That's a pretty American thing. God bless our troops. There are things like sledgehammers, long swords, and that electric prod I was telling you about that are so much fun to use and actually extremely effective. The coolest one they added was the balisong, exclusively because they added in custom like knife flipping animations for, you know, unsheathing it or like inspecting it and stuff. I'm getting the hang of this. That didn't count. The deeper I got into Fallout London and the more I thought about this difficulty level, I like a lot of it, but there's some parts just make me feel like it's not all that well implemented. See, I love that you can be overwhelmed by large groups of enemies. Creatures around London are extremely strong. The water gives you radiation poisoning in like a couple of seconds, and even the weather can be such a hassle. Where I'd say it falls off and even kind of breaks immersion, in my opinion, is in the AI department. This is just a mod of Fallout 4, right? So it's just building off of that game. I'm not actually sure if this is the fault of Fallout 4 or London. I don't know enough about game development, but I know that the enemies are so stupid in this game. There's a really cool side quest in Fallout London where you go to grant a dying man his final wish.
Do whatever he asks, no matter what.
See, it turns out his wife was turned into a feral ghoul, and all he wants is to be reunited with her when he finally passes.
I haven't much time left in this world before I move on to the next. And I'd like to make that journey with someone.
And to do that, you need to go and basically put her out of her misery so that she may pass on, and her spirit will be released. I finally found the building she was in and went to go and find her so that I could mercy kill her. But that mercy kill quickly turned into an insane boss fight. The glowing green one up there? Yeah, that's her. Oh no. Oh no. Oh my god. I thought I was going to do something merciful. It didn't matter how many chem combinations I tried. Roy, whiskey, 3 cigarettes, zombie, hypo, even Excalibur. The ultimate chem that makes you feel everything and nothing all at once. I put him in the blender, drank it down, and started vibrating through objects like the Flash. And even still, this man's sweet, loving wife was laying me out in one hit. She was so strong, but the enemy AI is so stupid that all I had to do was jump up onto a little ledge and she would just keep running into a wall at me but never get to me, and I could unload every single bullet I had in my arsenal into her head. Again, I'm not even sure that this is something the London developers could have fixed, but when there's an exploit like this, it's kind of hard not to take it. Oh man. One thing that Fallout London does get right is the factions. The main raider type faction base enemy here is a group called the Hooligans. Pretty much every other faction in London agrees that the Hooligans just suck so bad, and most of the missions that they give you are to go and wipe out big groups of hooligans at a time. And there are also 5 main factions in the game that aren't enemies unless you make them that. The first faction we're introduced to are the Vagabonds, the ones we talked about that you meet at the beginning of the game, and they are based on just traditional like London gang culture. Interacting with the Vagabonds is actually really funny because they are all so British and so mean.
Oi oi, if it ain't that lab rat, the fuck you on?
Damn! British people are fucking mean.
I'm pretty deep into the whole role-playing thing here, so I decided I was going to choose all the nice dialogue options until like my beer wore off or until I ran out of cigarettes, and then I was just gonna say the meanest shit that came up in that little box.
Boy, wipe that smarmy look off your face before I have one of my friends do it for you.
What look? I think that's just my face. You know what? Yeah, they can't talk to me like that.
Who the hell am I? The name's John the Screw. I'm the one in charge of fixing up this pub that you so clearly think you're better than.
Are you gonna do something about the smell too?
I don't know what you're smelling, friend. Might want to check your upper lip.
Oh, I'm gonna fuck you up.
Because you meet with the Vagabonds pretty early in your playthrough, I wasn't able to find any cigarettes yet, so I was saying just the meanest shit to them.
Here you go, hold 'em. And
Dude, shut the fuck up, my cigarette wore off.
And for some reason, they were still trusting me to like do quests for them and hang out with them.
You know what? That gives me a brilliant idea. How would you like to make a few tickets for a quick job?
Dude, British people just communicate differently.
Even still, I'm not exactly sure if it was done this way so that I couldn't lock out any future quests, or if this is just how British people interact with each other. I'm not really sure what it is the Vagabonds want other than to beat their rival gang, which is the second faction on the list, the Syndicate of Dogs. These guys also have a pretty hardcore London gang vibe and seem to be the ones running the show around this part of the map. You can choose whether or not to get involved in the war between these two factions, and honestly, it's a pretty fun starter quest. Like when I first showed up at the Vagabonds headquarters and there was a turf war going on right there with the Isle of Dogs. I jumped in to help the Vagabonds defend their turf, but one of the Isle of Dogs members had gotten away, and after this whole fight was over, I was given a quest to go and track down the one that escaped. I found her hiding in this abandoned building, and when I did, she just started pleading for her life, saying that she had just joined the gang like a week ago and did not want to die over this.
Please let me live. I promise, I'll leave this gang shit behind.
I was given a choice whether to execute her there or set her free, but lucky for her, I had a couple of brews in me, so I was feeling good. I was gonna... Oh no. I'm so sorry. After I took care of business, I headed back to the pub that was the Vagabonds headquarters. It's here I did a couple of menial tasks, like I helped fix this radio for this guy who was just so mean. I stole every ounce of alcohol in the place, and for the first time in my playthrough, I laid my little head down and went to sleep.
Whoa. Oh. Am I? What the fuck? Who are you? What the fuck am I? Oh my god!
I had completely forgotten about the Sleepwalker perk, and now I had woken up not only just in a different place, but all the way across the map, diagonally, somewhere I probably should not have been yet. I was as far away as I could possibly be. And it was over here that I found the third faction, called the Tommies. These guys are basically like World War I soldiers, and I honestly don't know a ton about them. I didn't spend a lot of time with them. When I was in their little camp, I kept trying to talk to them, and none of them would talk back to me. And I'm not sure if that's because they just don't talk to you, or I was in a part of the map I was not supposed to be in yet. All I know for sure is they act like the militia for a more important faction called the Gentry.
Look, commoner, I'm not buying anything.
Give me a cigarette.
They're basically just like the royal family that thinks they're better than everyone. Think of them as the faction meant to represent the establishment. And what good is an establishment if there isn't an anti-establishment group trying to destroy them? And good thing here, there are two. The Fifth Column and Camelot, both just really want to destroy the Gentry. These two factions have common goals, but they go about them in very different ways. Aside from these main factions, there is one more faction that is very secretive, secret society that I can't tell you about yet. These are the main ones here, but there are different like sub-factions within the world, like the Beef Eaters are just a group of cannibals that guard the London Bridge. It's the way that you interact with these factions and the way these factions interact with each other that makes London so immersive. Showing up on a gang war and getting to choose what side you're on. And whichever side you start to fight, you'll get a little pop-up saying that you're now an enemy to that faction. I wouldn't call it the most robust faction loyalty system, but it's fun to mess around with, and it really makes you think about who you're gonna align with or not. Fallout London has so much going for it, but there's one thing that I think it gets better than anything else, and that is its portrayal of the city of London. London is designed in a way that feels unique and fresh throughout the entire playthrough, as most of the locations you visit will have different elements to them. Something that often draws me into a game is the vibe. Like there's a specific energy that this game was trying to capture. Like the dystopian steampunk themes of Dishonored, the medieval Norse fantasy in Skyrim. Fallout London captures that vibe of walking through a destroyed, cold, dreary, rainy London like no other game I've ever played. It's London's color palette and the weather effects that really do a lot of the heavy lifting here, but I think the biggest asset is just the level of detail. The phone boxes, buses, a ton of junk items that are unique to Fallout London. The guns, the characters, the buildings, the outfits, it's all so on brand. Maybe it's just because I'm an American who's never been to London, so I only see this through the lens of the media I've consumed. But this is like spot on what I would want from an open world London. I had so much fun just running around exploring. You can find so many different Easter eggs in Fallout London, like this barbershop right here that's placed right up next to a meat pie shop. Inside of here, there's a totally sane woman selling mystery meat pies. Mystery meat pie? Oh no! I wonder what could be in those. If you've never seen it, it's clearly a reference to the musical Sweeney Todd, a story about a barber who takes a little more off the top than you would want and then gives your body over to the lady who then puts you in a meat pie and sells you to unsuspecting customers. It's like a little bit of cannibalism, but they sing songs and it's fun. Have a little fun, damn it. Eat a person, eat a guy. For another reference, the police boxes you can find all around London. This is the TARDIS from Doctor Who. And if you find all of them, you get a cool weapon. Just walking around and being able to find these things makes exploration extremely rewarding, which is good, considering how hard exploration is. I don't know if London is actually built this way in real life, but exploring these damn cities, just trying to find my way from point A to point B, can feel like I am navigating a maze. The density of this map comes at two costs. One, your performance, which does kind of suck, and two, you can't actually ever tell where you're going. Like, you can look on your map and think, oh man, that's a pretty straightforward path. I just go from here to here. And then as soon as you start moving, bam, dead end. Boom, you find a group of enemies and inject yourself with every chemical known to man only to be blown to bits in one hit. Boom, you get a little bit distracted and you go into this library where you figure out that they were burning books before the Great War, and there's a whole bunch of world building stuff and you kind of forget about the map marker you were going to in the first place. Boom, you get tempted to go into the most terrifying Trader Joe's in human history, and as you're exploring it, you come face to face with the craziest, most scary flying creature you've ever seen in your entire life. Boom, you run out of cigarettes and your entire objective list gets replaced with the only objective that's really important. Boom, lives were lost, but you experienced the most euphoric feeling ever when the smoke from the Parliament menthol hits your lungs. Boom! You somehow end up where you were headed in the first place. Sorry, I got lost on a little bit of a tangent there, but that's kind of how exploration works in the game. You get lost on tangent after tangent after tangent, and that's the fun of it. The map is confusing as hell, but I kind of love that about it. I mean, it's so much more engaging than like running through an open field for 45 minutes. I mentioned a little before, one thing I really love is how distinct a lot of these districts feel from each other. And just locations in the game in general have a lot of their own charm to them. There are a ton of them worth talking about, but I'm gonna choose 3 to mention because I think they're especially cool. The first one I want to tell you about is called Thameshaven. You see, in real London, there is a river called the River Thames. It's the longest river in England and has been extremely useful to the people who lived around it. You know, they were able to use it for like drinking water at points, used it for transportation, and it provided like a bordering line as well at points. We see in July of 1858, in real life, there was a huge heat wave in London, and this gave way to an event known throughout history as the Great Stink. And that stink was coming from the River Thames. You see, over the course of a couple hundred years, people who lived around this river got real comfortable using it for other purposes than were intended initially, like waste. A lot of it. They threw just about anything into this river, and over time, it became like a huge open sewer. You ever seen the lake from the Simpsons movie? It's just like that. Now, this heat wave in 1858 was so bad because it basically cooked all that toxic waste and sludge that was in the River Thames, and it produced a smell that was so bad that it provoked a swift government response. If the fact that it got the government moving quickly on something does not tell you how bad this smelled, I do not know what could convey the idea. Now, it's all relevant to Fallout London because if you go into the River Thames, you will be irradiated instantly. Like, you will get so much radiation poisoning, you might not even be able to get out in time before you die. And also because there is a race of mutated people in Fallout London called the Thames folk. These people have been mutated into Call of Cthulhu looking ass fish monsters that make the ghouls in Fallout look beautiful. And also when you talk to them, it sounds like they are constantly gasping for air.
Hold on. Looks like we have a tourist.
Dude, catch a breath.
Now, I think the idea here is that people in Fallout, right, get mutated by being exposed to radiation. But these people specifically, who were exposed to radiation and also the River Thames, were like even more mutated. They got like double mutated because the river is so nasty. I think they're cool people, and really, I just love the fantastical shit when it is in Fallout. If you've ever played Fallout New Vegas, it's got the same vibe as those ghouls who really wanted to go up into space. I remember when I went and found them for the first time, and there was all the super mutants. It felt very fantasy-like, and I loved that. To find the Thames folk, you have to talk to this man here who will tell you they've been trapped down in their underground city known as Thameshaven. Getting down there is essentially a dungeon crawl where you have to fight off different beasts, radiation, and the terrible swimming mechanic. Why is it so hard to make swimming work in this game? The claustrophobic passageways to get down to Thameshaven, made up of different cave openings and train cars, feel so immersive and are almost reminiscent of the Metro games. After some navigating, you're able to find the Thames folk, who are clearly in distress, both because they've left a man behind and they can't get oxygen to their lungs to save their lives.
The ferryman's still down there, continuing the fight. Find him and help, if he's still alive.
The mission here is pretty simple. Go down and save the ferryman, who is probably my favorite character in Fallout London. It's on your way to him that you can see kind of how the Thames folk live down here in Thameshaven, and how much detail the Fallout London team put into just kind of conceptualizing how these people would live, right? It's not even a part of the full map, you know, it's one small location. And it's so detailed and it feels so alive. And it's here that we get a quest to go to another location, which is actually the second location I wanted to tell you about. See, there's a group of Thames folk that live up in this airplane that is hanging up over top of a couple of buildings, and you can see beneath them it's been flooded. This ain't just any old water. This is the water that kills you if you touch it. So this whole little town is basically a game of the floor is lava. Rather than just be abandoned, the people here put down boards as walkways, use these double-decker buses to walk across. It breaks up the flow of gameplay and turns Fallout into the parkour simulator that it was never meant to be. It's a cool change of pace, and it kept me interested. Now, the third location, which is probably, arguably the coolest. Amazon Warehouse, rebranded now to Vault Zone, where the spirit of the working class comes to die. That's not actually the place I wanted to show you, but it is in the game, and it is hilarious. The place I'm talking about is actually called Westminster. Fallout has always been about the post-apocalypse, so naturally all of the locations are fitted with that post-nuclear blast swag. But Westminster, an area that you can only get to after completing a certain amount of the main quests, seems completely untouched by the apocalypse. The streets are clean, the buildings are fully intact, and insufferably rude upper-class citizens fill the streets. It is absolutely crazy to walk around a Fallout game where everything is just fine. It's also an interesting location because this is where the main story really kicks into gear. In the beginning, we talked about that weird shadowy guy, Mr. Smythe. Well, you can't actually get to Westminster until you've tracked Mr. Smythe down to one of his laboratories. It's here you can discover more about what this place is, the abominations they were creating, the experiments that were going on, and even a little bit about Smythe himself. I'm reading the diary of the main villain, and it's basically saying like, man, I should really use the gym, but I really like snacks. I don't really feel like working out right now. Maybe I'll just do some push-ups. You remember that last secret faction I told you about? Well, it turns out that Mr. Smythe is actually the one pulling the strings in this faction called Angel. Honestly, I'd love to tell you more about it, but I don't want to spoil the game. I think genuinely there are some twists and turns here that are extremely interesting, and you should experience them for yourself. I won't tell you what they are, but all I will say is that the developers behind Fallout London were clearly inspired by more than one Obsidian game. That's all I'm gonna say. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Just play the game. I've had a lot of good things to say about Fallout London, but there are some areas that I think could do with improvement. Some things that I would have liked to see, some things I was disappointed that weren't there. So I've actually made up a little bit of a wish list because apparently they're still updating the game. Maybe they see this, maybe they see what I like, what I don't. I'm not really a game developer, so don't listen to me, but these are the things that I would have liked to see. Number one, choices. There were multiple moments in this game where I really wanted to go a specific route and I wasn't able to do things like outside of the box. It was very much inside the box. Like for example, when you talk to the Tommies about going down to save the people in Thameshaven, they say to you that they would love to go down and help, but they don't have authorization from their higher ups in command.
Personally, I wouldn't mind helping them. Thames folk are folk just like you and me. but we just don't have the authorization.
I would have loved an option to go and find those higher ups and convince them to let at least a group of Tommies come down to help the Thames folk. It's similar to what happens in Fallout New Vegas when the town of Prim is taken over and a militant group sits outside of it but cannot go in to help the people of Prim because they do not have the supplies from their higher ups and they won't send any more stuff. So you have the option to go and find their higher ups and pass a charisma check or some kind of check to convince them to let the militant group go in and help Prim. I think it just feels nice to have multiple options and be able to solve problems in your own way. Next up on my wish list, please make the game work. It really doesn't work right now. I'm really trying. I mean, I'm talking 25 frames per second and I'm still trucking because I love your game. Oh my God, it doesn't work. Next up on my list, I can't find shit. This may or may not be a skill issue, but I keep finding myself running around in circles trying to find things for multiple hours, only for it to be some tiny little object that was placed on the floor. The bigger one was when I was in the Bank of London and I'm running around trying to find a key to unlock the door. I thought it would be on a person. Turns out it was just on the wall right there. That one I felt kind of stupid. But later in the Bank of London, you need to get another key, and that one is hiding really small. Maybe just like put them on a body. And last on my wish list, please make another game, specifically one that is original so you can charge money for it and make $1 billion because you deserve it. I cannot recommend Fallout London enough. It is mind-boggling that a group of fans came together and made such an incredible experience. I never could have imagined something this great could come from a team of part-time volunteers. Fallout London is a testament to how passion and determination are all you need to truly create something great. Click the card right here to go and watch another one of my videos. I've been pumping these things out and I am going to keep doing so. YouTube thinks you're gonna like this one here specifically. Is that true? I don't know. Let's find out together. Click it. Goodbye.